She said, "I'm not cutting off my ex just because you're insecure." Fair point, I said. Accepted Amsterdam, the position I declined 3 times for her. She realized I was serious when she showed up at my apartment to work things out. The new tenant answered the door, and honestly, that moment should have hurt more than it did, but by then I'd already detached so hard that watching her face crumble was like watching a movie scene I'd already seen too many times. Anyway, here's the full story, because a lot of you will probably have opinions about whether I did the right thing or not. So buckle up, because this whole mess spans nearly 4 years, and every time I think about it, it still feels like a slow-motion car crash I didn't realize I was in until I was already halfway through the windshield. My name's Ethan, and the woman in question is Lauren. When we got together, I was 27, working in software, stable career, stable mind, stable everything. Lauren felt like the opposite of me in the kind of way that makes you think opposites really do attract. She was artsy, impulsive, emotional, the type of person who could walk into a silent room and somehow create an entire memory you'd keep with you for the rest of your life. I loved that about her. Or I thought I did. The trouble started the moment her ex, Dylan, came back into her orbit. He wasn't even subtle. He'd text her things like, "Miss your energy," and "Remember that summer we drove to Santa Cruz?" Stuff that wasn't technically explicit. But anyone could see the boundary violation with the naked eye. I brought it up gently at first. She'd smile, brush my arm, say, "Relax, Ethan, we dated years ago. He's harmless." But the messages kept coming. Then the calls. Then the accidental run-ins. Like somehow they kept bumping into each other at the same coffee shop, even though she lived on the opposite side of the damn city. And any time I tried to talk about how uncomfortable I was, she'd hit me with the same line. "You're insecure, Ethan. You need to trust me." I don't know why, but that word, insecure, hung in the air like a fog I couldn't breathe through. I'd never thought of myself as insecure. I wasn't controlling. I wasn't jealous. I wasn't the type to check phones or monitor behavior. All I wanted was a basic boundary. But apparently, that made me needy, at least in her mind. Meanwhile, her career was, well, unstable. She bounced between freelance design jobs and part-time gigs, never quite landing anything long-term. I didn't mind helping her. It felt like we were partners. I covered rent a few months, paid for some health insurance, bought groceries more often than not. She'd always say she'd pay me back once everything stabilized, and I believe her because I wanted to believe the relationship was building towards something real. And then came the job offer. Amsterdam. A position I'd been chasing for years. A chance to work with a research team I admired. I told her about it. Excited, nervous, trying to picture us starting a new chapter together. She froze. "I can't move to Europe," she said. "My whole life is here. My friends, my family, my creative community." I understood. Really, I did. I told the company no. I told myself it was the right thing, because relationships require sacrifice. The second time they offered, I turned it down again. Same with the third. By then, even my boss was confused, asking if something was going on at home. I brushed it off. But the resentment started growing like mold under the floorboards. Slowly, quietly, until it started affecting everything. And then came the moment. The one that snapped the last thread, holding everything together. We were in the kitchen making dinner, and Dylan texted her some inside joke. She laughed. I didn't even react outwardly. I just said, in as calm a tone as I could manage, "Can you not talk to him like that? It bothers me." And she rolled her eyes at me, and said the sentence I'll probably remember until I'm old and gray. "I'm not cutting off my ex just because you're insecure." I don't know what changed in me right then. Something cracked. Something shifted. Something finally clicked into clarity. I said, "Fair point." Just like that. No anger. No shouting. No fight. And she looked at me like she expected the argument to escalate, like she prepared all her talking points for the usual cycle of tension, defensiveness, reconciliation, sex. But I didn't play the part. I simply dried my hands, walked out of the kitchen, and sent one email. "I accept the position in Amsterdam. When is the earliest start date possible?" They replied within 10 minutes. They were thrilled. 2 weeks later, I had a visa process underway. 3 weeks later, I had a new lease in a different country. I didn't tell her, not out of cruelty. I just didn't feel obligated anymore. She'd show me exactly how much my concerns mattered. Around this time, she began pushing the idea of taking a break. It wasn't official, she insisted. Just time apart while she figured herself out. I didn't fight it. Why would I? We drifted. She went out more often. Heavily curated Instagram stories. New outfits. Tagging friends at bars. Accidentally posting pictures with Dylan in the background. I wasn't stupid, but I wasn't invested anymore either. When she finally said she thought we should separate for a while, I just said, fair point. That's when she panicked, because she expected me to fight. She expected me to chase. She expected me to beg or break or bargain. But I didn't. 2 months later, the visa cleared, I shipped my essentials, and I subleased my apartment. The day she finally realized something was different was the day she came by my place with this wide-eyed, dramatic, we need to talk energy, only to have a stunned 22-year-old college student open the door. She called me 20 times, texted me nonstop. I answered none of it. My flight left that evening, and stepping into Amsterdam felt like breathing for the first time. I didn't realize how compressed my life had been until I finally stood in a place she couldn't reach me. The work was incredible. The city felt peaceful. My co-workers became friends. I found a version of myself I didn't even know had been buried. Meanwhile, mutual friends began updating me on what was happening back home, without me even asking. Apparently, Lauren tried dating Dylan again. It imploded fast. The guy cheated, lied, manipulated, basically everything she swore he wasn't like. She had a meltdown, stopped showing up to freelance gigs, fell behind on bills. Her family stepped in, then stepped back out when they realized she expected to be rescued. Even her closest friends got tired of the drama. And here's the thing. I didn't enjoy hearing about any of this. I wasn't sitting in Amsterdam, rubbing my hands together like some cartoon villain. I felt sad for her, truly, but I also felt free. A year passed, a year of good work, good people, slow healing, and figuring out who I actually was outside of being the stable one holding something dysfunctional together. And then, of course, she found me. Instagram DM, long message, emotional, nostalgic, apologetic. She wrote that she'd been stupid, that she didn't realize what she had, that she was in therapy now, that she wanted to meet for closure. I ignored it. She messaged again. Then again. Eventually, I responded with the same 2 words. Fair point. She said she didn't understand. I told her I hoped she healed, but I wasn't interested in re-entering the story she'd already rewritten to make herself feel better. I didn't blame her, but I didn't owe her anything either. The final twist came when I flew home for my cousin's wedding. I hadn't planned on seeing her. Then, right as I stepped outside the reception hall to take a call from my mom, I heard my name. She looked different, tired, smaller somehow, like someone who'd aged 10 years in one. She said, "Can we talk?" And even though I didn't want to, I suddenly felt like the universe needed me to finish this chapter properly. So we talked, and she cried, and apologized again, and told me she knew what she lost, and asked softly, almost whispering, if there was any chance at all. I told her the truth, that I had loved her once, that I wasn't angry anymore, that I genuinely hoped she found happiness. But I wasn't stepping back into a burning building just because the smoke had cleared. She nodded, wiped her eyes, walked away. And for the first time, I felt absolutely nothing. Not relief, not triumph, not bitterness. Just closure, which I guess is the whole point of this long, messy story. Sometimes the ending doesn't come with fireworks or explosions. Sometimes it comes with 2 simple words spoken at the right moment. Fair point.